all those people have been complaining for years that I don't want to go. I'm not going to Wembley because Wigan are there and St Helens are there and Warrington are there and Leeds are there, and I'm bored of seeing Wigan and Saints and Warrington and Leeds. Are all going to find different excuses now not to go on August the 12th. But more fool them. More fool them.
Well, no doubt we will discuss what we think the crowd will be, which was a very interesting debate that was taking place outside the dressing rooms yesterday while waiting for coaches and players to come in and do their formal interviews. And I guess we can come to that when we've finished reviewing the action.
Okay, I will take 100,000 people, so they don't have to sell any other tickets. It's okay. And they beat Wigan 11-10 in Golden Point extra time. Brad Schneider, he loves Headingley. He with the winning goal. 12-man Wigan, as it says, with that sending off of Joe Shorrocks. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not a qualified referee. I don't know anything, which is why I leave it to the experts. But even I sat at home thought, oh, he's going to go for that. So I don't know why some current Super League players on social media couldn't understand why, because it seemed with the way Rugby League is refereed in 2023 that was an obvious red card.
Yeah, I think. Well, firstly, just taking the social media comments by players, I looked up the operational rules last night just to see what the rules they are bound by, and the wording of the rule is quite specific, so that they cannot question the integrity of a match official or the manner in which the game was officiated, which would suggest that what they were doing by questioning the decision and the accuracy of a decision is actually permitted under the operational rules. I don't think that's right, personally. I mean, I would imagine players and clubs would complain if I, when I was an active referee, started taking to social media and questioning their ability or sort of suggesting that they had poor performances or whatever. As for the decision, for me, I think it was one of those that it was a card of one colour or another. And I think with the way that the game's going, shoulder to head generally is a red card. I think when you look at making a decision, you look at whether there's any mitigation in the circumstances. And I think the only mitigation for me was that the ball carrier was falling in height, in my view. And I thought that may have been sufficient to merit a yellow card rather than a red card. I think if you look at the two incidents that both resulted in cards for foul play across the two games, you had the Matautia sin bin on Saturday, which again was shoulder to head direct. That was a late challenge on a kicker. So you immediately then wonder, what's the difference? Why is one a yellow and why is one a red? And I'm sure if they're having a group review this week, the referees, there will be a fierce debate amongst that group as to whether which should have been a yellow, which should have been a red. I mean, it was rather interesting after the semi-finals last year. It felt rather orchestrated that we ended up with two teams of match officials. My team as the leader of the Wigan Saints semi-final versus Liam Moore and his contingent, looking at group review decisions and arguing whether they're right or wrong, and it's very difficult to separate yourself from a decision. My personal view is I think there was enough mitigation on Saturday in that the player was attempting to tackle, he was wrapping the kicker, and therefore he earned the benefit of some doubt. And ultimately, both players have got charged with a grade C. Yes, one's got a 1-match ban and the other's got a 2-match ban. The number of games they get is irrelevant because that's all relevant to their previous history. So the only factor of any relevance there is the charge, and they're both being charged with the same. That would suggest that the outcome on the field should have been the same. My personal view is I think they were both yellow cards rather than both red cards. But you can't have one without the other is my honest view. But I talked about it a few weeks ago, didn't it, when somebody asked the question on the Challenge Cup final last year whether there should have been some cards shown in that final, and you just cannot win as a match official. I didn't show cards in that final, and people wanted cards to be shown. Cards are shown at the weekend, and people are not happy with the cards that are shown. So you can't win. They only get a limited number of opportunities to review the replays and get input from the video referee before making a decision. Match review panel get lots and lots of time to debate whether it's a charge or it isn't a charge, and still people go mental on social media as to the outcome of those charges. So, you could be given all the time in the world as a referee to make a decision. You'd still split opinion.
I mean, football fans complain about which way throwing goes. So, it's anything above that, and it's Harry Carey going on. The other thing that puzzled me in the game was the reaction. I think it was Opicic who was tackled, and he was twisted, and all hell broke loose for a few seconds. But as soon as the clock was stopped, he managed to get up and was fine. It was. I don't like that kind of thing where it seems that he was waiting for whatever decision was going to be made, which of course was made after the clock was stopped.
I think that was the tackle by Miski, was it?
Yeah, I think it was Bevan French was holding him up, and then Miski came at the top.
And again, the mitigation there was that the player in possession was falling into contact, which is why it was just a penalty. And again, that was shoulder to probably neck, I think, or maybe no, it was probably shoulder to head, that one, but there was enough mitigation to suggest it was just a penalty, and a match review panel haven't charged that. So I find that slightly unusual. I would have been expecting there to have been a charge against Miski, and I think what match review panel have determined when you read the minutes is that it's almost the player in possession that's been put onto the shoulder of the defender by the actions of Miski's teammate in making that tackle, which, and I can see that argument in fairness. But when you look at it in that level of detail, and a referee and a video referee simply just doesn't have that time to make that assessment, I think that's where you will get some inconsistencies in decision making, unfortunately. And as people will try and say one is exactly the same as the other in terms of those two grade C charges, they're two different challenges, and all foul play will be all slightly different. So you just have to weigh up so many different factors when you arrive at an outcome, and you're never gonna get a universal opinion on something.
I think you also have to add into that what have the clubs had under their own control, and clearly Wigan didn't set up for a drop goal. Hull KR's defence was excellent, but at no point did you feel confident that within that 80 minutes, Wigan were going to come up with a play that would win them the game. I thought they had an outstanding couple of players, not least Kai Pearce-Paul, who were such a better team when he was on the field rather than off it. And I couldn't fault anything he did. He looked like the kind of guy that Newcastle Knights would have gone, we need him. He'll be a success over here. But I just didn't think that, Harry Smith's kicking game in general play was fine, but they never properly put him in a position where he could drop a goal. Whereas you looked at Hull KR, particularly in Golden Point, and it was a fantastic hit by Schneider from that way out. And Wigan did put pressure on him, but technically that was a fantastic drop goal. But they put themselves in we'd seen it the week before when they played against Leeds at Headingley. But people like George King are worth their weight in gold when it comes to setting up a field goal or a drop goal, whichever one you deem to be the correct terminology. And again, I thought that the whole KR pack was exceptional in getting him to where he needed to be, or near enough to where he needed to be, and his skill managed to get the result for them. Wigan never quite pulled that off, and I'm not sure it was about being down to 12 men, because we saw in the tie against Warrington that they were down to 12 men for 73 minutes, and they had a game plan to close out the opposition. I think Kenny Dowell being sin-binned lessened the impact of being down to 12 men, even for 10 minutes. Of the 30, it meant that there was parity amongst the teams, and I just don't think Wigan, in the areas that you needed to ice a game, which I believe that's what you call it these days, had the players that could do it, whereas Hull KR did, and that was the difference. The key moments in the game, Wigan just couldn't find a play.
I think they've scored one try, haven't they? I think to expect to win a game and only score one try, yes, the conditions probably meant it was always going to be a low-scoring game, but to only score one try in a semi-final and to expect to win it it's probably unlikely. I think you're right. They probably missed that killer instinct in terms of their attacking shape.
I know the answer. Oh, sorry, Phil.
I was just say there was one in particular. I think was it Jai Field couldn't take a ball that I think normally he would have done, and you just think in those moments, without blaming anyone, games change. Opposition get. You've also got to add into the equation that Hull KR had Ryan Hall pull out in the warm-up. And it's not just Ryan Hall's experience in those big games or being on a ground that he's so familiar with. Is that the great asset that he brings from the wing is his ability to run the ball out of defence and take the pressure off his forwards. Ethan Ryan isn't that kind of a player. Mikey Lewis being told in the warm-up that he's going in at fullback, that alters the dynamic. To overcome that almost seamlessly from the first minute, again, that's something that perhaps, you can look at odd key moments in a game, but the ethic of the team that Willie Peters has built there is so strong and so solid, a bit like what Adrian Lamb's done, that you have to just give them credit for finding a way to win that match.
I know the answer to this question is he's Irish, but George King should be in Sean Wayne's thoughts of the England squad. And he's only 28. I've just checked on Wikipedia, and I'm assuming he's right. He's right.
Yeah, he's just signed a new contract as well, because Hull KR was saying they think he's at the peak of his career being a prop forward. But I'd rather he played for Ireland, and we had an international calendar where Ireland are playing some matches this autumn. But if we were to have a Great Britain team, and again, the whole idea behind having credible Welsh, Irish and Scottish internationals is that when we do come to select a Great Britain team, should there ever be such a thing again, which was planned to be once every 4 years, that George King would be able to say, I can pledge my allegiance to Ireland. I want to play for Ireland. That's where my heritage is. But if I'm good enough, I'd like to think that I could be considered for Great Britain.
Well, we'll find out when's it ended this month, the big meeting in Singapore, was it?
Yeah, I think they're from July the 31st to August the 2nd. So I don't think we'll hear anything until the first week in August. And I genuinely don't know what we're going to hear, but it is supposedly a decision-making board meeting. So.
Well, the head of the IRL will be on one of those podcasts in Australia to tell everyone, I'm sure. So we'll find out sooner rather than later. So we've got Hull KR in the final, overcoming a deficit at half-time, not quite as big as the deficit that their big fan Keir Mather did in Selby and Ainsty at the earlier in the week. But I assume it's Mather. I don't know. Is it like Barry? Is some relation to Barry John? One assumes. I don't know. But there you go, a bit of politics there for you. But he's a Hull KR fan, so there you go, another one in Parliament, which can't be a bad thing for rugby league people. It's an exciting final, isn't it? Because we have got two teams who we don't expect to be there in there. I've obviously got my £2.50 on Lee, so I'm very excited that I'm getting some money back. It'll pay for something in the Wembley complex on the day. We're going to be there all day for that. We're not going to leave until we're going to be the last ones kicked out again, aren't we?
Again, yeah. When the security guards are going, I don't know why you're interviewing these people. There's no one left in the stadium. Could you please go home? But we'll be there till the end of the 1895 Cup. I think the other thing to mention about the final is that these two teams that play a really exciting brand of rugby. So again, not only do we not know who is going to win, but what we should be looking forward to and promoting the hell out of is saying this could be one of the most open and entertaining cup finals we've seen, because neither team is going to die wondering. The game plan for both of them will not be to stop the opposition. It'll be for them to go out and play the way they want to play. And both of them are attacking-led teams. They're both coached by halfbacks, which again is incredibly refreshing. I have nothing against prop forwards who coach teams, and some of them have been the most successful we've ever seen, and have staff around them that clearly input on the attacking side of the game. But we've got two head coaches and some assistant coaches who just love movement of the ball and want to attack their way to victory rather than strangle the life out of the opposition. If that doesn't excite neutrals, I don't know what will. And again, with the greatest respect to Wigan, Saints, they're difficult teams to like if you're a fan of another side. But I think everybody has got an affinity to the way Lee and Hull KR play and the style and the manner in which they play. So even if you don't support either of them, you just want to be entertained. You've got no reason not to go, I think. This is where, if we are serious about... We may have lost the romance of the Challenge Cup because those days of a team outside of the top sides are getting there have gone. But what we have got is the magic of the Challenge Cup is back with these two teams there. So, yeah, please, if you can go.